Hello and welcome to Vitality Women Leading Audaciously. Today, our honored guest is Nicole Rodrigues, the owner and founder of NRPR Agency. Welcome to the show today. Tell us about yourself, Nicole.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. My name's Nicole, and I have been in PR and digital marketing for 22 years now. I actually hail from Fremont, California, so I'm a Silicon Valley girl, born and raised. I moved to LA, I want to say almost 12 years ago now, and I love it here. So I started my firm 8 years ago. Goodness, in June is when we hit our 8-year anniversary. But I had been in the industry for years. Between technology and as far off as football, I actually did PR in-house for the Oakland Raiders when we were in Oakland. And I have an affinity for storytelling and helping brands and people tell their stories well. And so between whether it's a tech company, whether it's a football team, whether it's a startup, whether it's a company that's a grown-up, everyone has a story to tell, and it's important that it's done well and with the right channels. So that's a little bit of my magic that I help companies with, and I've been doing that for now over 2 decades.
It's incredible. And it's changed so much in the last 22 years. I mean, you've seen it go from, almost pre-digital to digital.
Yeah,
And
I
then
used to I used
go
to
ahead.
fax press releases. It's funny, I tell my employees, I'm like, I used to fax press releases to the wire companies when I first started in PR. So like that just
Mm.
tells you how quickly technology has evolved. But yeah.
It's exciting times. And, what was it that you found you realized about yourself in order to go into PR per se? Because there were so many different channels that you could have gone into in that realm. What about PR really drew you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I take this back to 12 years old. When I was 12 years old, I wanted to run for office in junior high and high school, right? And so I realized that public perception was everything with getting votes and making sure that you understood what the people needed, right? Like what my classmates needed from a leader. I didn't know that was a job, right? So I knew that I understood how to write. I understood persuasive speech. I understood how to listen to people and actually formulate plans based on other people's needs
Mm.
and strategize, right? I also understood how to use media because we had school papers, we had, all of these different mediums for communicating with the audiences. And when I was in high school, I thought, well, I guess that's marketing, right? I was president of the marketing club of my high school, and I just assumed this was all marketing that I was doing. I didn't realize there was a niche.
Yeah.
It was actually called PR.
Yeah.
So when I got into college and realized that was a major, it was one of my professors in journalism who actually called it out. He was like, "Did you know that you should probably be taking a PR 101 class?" And I just kind of looked at him like, "I don't know what you're talking about, but sure, I'll sign up for it." I took PR 101 and I was like, holy moly, this was my calling this whole time.
Oh,
I've
that
been
is
doing
so
this since
exciting.
12.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. I too was in student government. I was like the vice
Yeah.
president of my class, the president of my class, the vice president of
Yeah.
my school. We had a school of over 7,000 students.
Which school did you go to?
It was in Northern Virginia. I grew up outside of
Oh,
Washington, D.C.
okay.
And it was just like, it was an animal. But just like you're saying, it's about perception, which is about brand, right? Your brand is
Totally.
only what it means based on how it's being perceived, your brand perception.
That's right.
And that's why, Louis Vuitton charges what they do and Coach charges what they do and so on and
Yep.
so forth. So it's really fascinating. And at this time where kind of the playing field, so to say, has been somewhat leveled.
Mhm.
And it's like, if you're going to stand out, if you're going to rise to the top or even be noticed, it's all about this perception about,
That's right.
your brand. So it's very deep work actually to tell a story, isn't it?
Yep. Absolutely. And to connect with a brand, I think every brand and company has a soul, right?
Mm.
Really thinking about that, humanizing it, and knowing that when you think about Apple, you think of a certain energy that
Hmm.
comes with it, right? You picture the
Totally.
stores, you picture, okay, your earbuds, there's a sleekness to it. there's a bit of a hipness to it. There's a little bit of a I don't know how to say it, but I don't know if you remember their ad campaigns where it was like the guy with his earbud or his headphones and his iPod back in the day, and it was
Mhm.
sort of fun and it was hip, and then you think, okay, Microsoft, it has a different energy, it has a different soul. And so when you're thinking about the channels to tell your story, what has to feel right is it needs to stay true to brand, which means true to the soul and the ethos of that company, no matter what channel you're using. So that's the deep work. It's like, how do you really connect with what the brand, what it is, what it feels like to receive and experience that brand, right?
Absolutely. And I think we can relate that even to ourselves. The women
Yeah.
listening today are also doing a lot of deep reflection. There are a lot of women out there who are changing their careers because they either got laid off or COVID has presented new challenges that they have to accommodate. And they're looking for something that is soul filling, not soul draining, and getting reconnected to and tethered to that like innate part of ourselves, that 12-year-old self that you
Mhm.
really saw shine through. And for me, I've always been in this role of someone who's they call me the gutless guru, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because like I'm such a stand for like what's true and what's real and
Yeah, I
what's
love
good.
that.
I've always been that way.
Yeah.
And so that's like what we have to get back to in a way.
Yes.
And it's funny because my sister's in branding, and so she'll always say, like, that's really off brand, like for her own personal brand. And I think that we
Yeah.
all have that. We all have that story.
Yeah.
We all have our soul, and we have to tether to it and make decisions about our life and our health that equal and result in vitality or less vitality. Because, like, if it's not resonating with us in our lives, it's not really going to be bringing more vitality. And vitality is like next level health. So,
Totally.
for those of you who can't see Nicole, she is a beautiful woman
No.
and she's very vital. Like you can tell, she's like glowing and she has this beautiful skin and hair and she's just got these bright eyes. And how do you do it? How do you, maintain the vitality as a mom, as a romantic partner, as a business owner? Like, how do you maintain it?
That's a great question. I think most people who meet me, um, there's a certain kind of, friendliness that I'll have in public, of course, with people. It, as crazy as it sounds, I enjoy being home alone.
Mm,
I enjoy cocooning and recapturing my energy. I enjoy sitting in the peacefulness of my home
mm,
and, you know, wiping down the counters, listening to like Lionel Richie or,
mhm,
just kind of connecting to, Saturdays at home when I'm the oldest of 9 kids. So finding peace and quiet in a
mm,
home that large did it barely existed. And when I could find it, I'd find it in my room and I would be quiet. And on a Friday night when my high school friends were out doing things after a football game, I would be home relaxing and just getting that energy together. And so I I don't spend too much time out. I keep my circle, my energy very close. And when I need
mm,
to, I sleep and I spend a lot of alone time that I really actually enjoy, or one-on-one time with my more handsome half, or one-on-one time with my daughter, or maybe one-on-one time with a really close friend.
mm.
That's actually how I preserve energy to be able to work and also not burn out.
Yeah, that's so, so helpful to hear because a lot of people will not give themselves permission
Yeah.
to do that. And it's really important. I'm actually the same way. I'm super personable, very outgoing, but when I need to restore, you'll find me like alone, getting the house cleaned up and organized, tying up loose ends, and then
Yep.
just having like quiet time. I love my quiet time.
Me too.
It
It's so sacred.
is. I'm like kind of
Yes.
selfish about it. I'm like, my friend's like, why
I
don't you
know.
come out? I'm like, because I just can't.
Yeah. I need this time. I need this time. Yeah.
So how old is your daughter now?
She is 20. She's going to be 21. And we're actually going to
Wow.
spend her 21st up north. I'm going to do the Napa, the mom daughter, and probably invite a couple of her aunties, like my sisters and her dad's sisters, and have a nice like grown up adult, not Vegas 21, kind of kickoff. It was funny because at first she's like, should I do Vegas? And I'm thinking like, my baby's getting older. Like, okay, whatever you want. And then the fact that she was like, Mom, Napa sounds good. And I'm like, oh,
Oh,
good. We
that's
like this.
so
So
great.
yeah, she's 20.
That is really exciting. For those of you who can't see Nicole, she doesn't look much over 20. So it's like amazing to hear about her adult daughter. But a lot of women who are listening have children that are of school age, and they're kind of struggling. So you were also building your business when your daughter was that
Oh
age.
yeah.
And so how did you manage that guilt? The guilt of needing to be there for your business, for your romantic partner, as well as being a mom. Like what was it then that you did?
Yeah, that is a really, really great question. And so, for all the moms out there, just sending loving vibes to you, knowing that, mom shaming, unfortunately, is a real thing. And I do remember that when my daughter was of school age, and even in high school, it wasn't as bad because I think they gain a little bit more of their own independence in high school. But, you know, early on, her father and I have always had a really good, fun, friendly relationship, right? So we balanced things out. They saw mom, they saw dad. We were at the school, but we were also very young parents. So at her school, it was strange for a lot of the moms to, one, see how young I was, and two, see how dedicated I was to my career. So when bake sales were going on and I wasn't the mom baking, I was certainly the mom who was saying like, well, I can donate to it, but I don't have a lot of time. What I did, I spent that time with my daughter so that no matter what the outside perception was, oh, well, Nicole's not at the bake sale, or she's not here volunteering at the school play. I was at the school plays when my daughter performed, but was I at every practice? No, I was working. I had to build myself up. And so when I had the one-on-one time with my daughter, I was always very clear with her how much I loved her
Mm.
and what mom was doing to set up for her future. And now that she's 20, she admitted to me, she said, growing up, I didn't understand. And part of me thought, well, my mom's just a workaholic. Maybe that's what it is, right? Because this is what she would
Mm.
hear. She'd hear it from the other moms who would pick her up and help with the after school stuff. And she's like, no, mom, you're right. I'm at NYU now, getting straight A's at NYU. Why? Because her work ethic, she
Mhm.
understood. She's like,
Yeah.
this is what I saw mom do.
Yeah.
Mom, you set me up to be able to go to the college of my dreams. You set me up to where I wasn't afraid of my dreams because you were always going after yours. So,
Mm.
having that conversation with your kids and
Huge.
saying, it might look like I'm working too much, but honey, I love you and I'm doing this so that you
Mm.
can see what real life, adult life looks like, and you can be ready for it.
Yeah. Wow, it's so beautiful. It really sending so many like commend you. And it's a really delicate edge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
goes into the guilt, it goes into the shame, but then in the end, I can say now my daughter's 17, and she's starting to really appreciate it as well. But it's not
Yeah.
always been easy.
Yeah.
Not at all. But that's not what parenthood's not supposed to be easy. it's just
Absolutely.
it's
Oh
just
my
not the way it's
goodness.
supposed to be. Um,
Nope.
but it sounds like your story is just so rich. For those of you who are interested to learn more, you have a book that really talks about your story as an inspiration to be the boss of your life. It sounds like it's
Mhm.
called Beverly Hills Boss. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. And beverlyhillsboss.com, you can go there and read all about it. And you can click to order the digital version. You can click to order the print version if you want. And if you just go on there, there's also like a free 10 tips to basically use to start the process of becoming the boss of your own life. Because again, being eh, the oldest of nine, having to grow up as quickly as I did, there was a lot that I needed to sort of get together by 18, because by 18 I had to move out. There was no room in the house for
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
to really grow. So at 18, I had moved out and had to, it was scary.
Mm.
It was scary to have no plan B. Mom and dad did not have a come back just in case it doesn't work out. It was, well, cool, you're 18. Well, good luck with the world kind
Yeah.
of thing. And obviously, I'm still close to my parents, but it was a very like tough love situation. And now that I look back at it, I'm glad. But at 18, it was the hardest thing on my life, my confidence, my
Mm,
drive. It killed it all for a little while. I
mm,
was in college lost,
mm,
and I had to reconnect to the 12-year-old. I had to reconnect with who I was authentically to push through those hard times. And my daughter actually gave me that motivation.
mm.
Seeing her, I was like, she is going to see everything that her mom ever dreamed of doing. She's going to see her mom do it. And being 15, I actually was like, I'm going to move to Beverly Hills one day and I'm going to live there. I'd never even visited Beverly Hills. But for some reason I wanted to live there because I saw it on TV.
Yeah, right.
And now this is my home, and my daughter has seen every goal I've ever set for myself, including going to UCLA. I'm finishing my MBA right now while she's at NYU, and we are both nerding out going to school together, kind of like checking in with each other. It's really
I
cute,
love
but
it.
she's like, "Oh my God," because I couldn't get my MBA being a mom at 22.
Right. Yeah. I love that for you. Congratulations. That's such a
Yeah,
huge
thank
accomplishment.
you.
I too am thinking about going back to school. I think I'm going to become an osteopath. Yeah. Not
Yes.
necessarily because I want to like treat people osteopathically, about osteopathically. I don't know how to say the word. My goodness. I don't want to give like adjustments. At least I don't think, but I really want to learn the body of knowledge because I've just been geeking out on health these last, almost 30 years. And I really want to understand the fascia system. I think there are links there that are going to help close some gaps in my understanding because it's just health is not that complicated, yet it can be. And
Mm-hmm.
there's so many fundamental pillars of it. But the things you're talking about today are things that a lot of women neglect. They think it's about the diet, they think it's about the exercise, and it is. I'm not going to
Sure.
pretend that it's not, but it's a
Yeah.
lot about the mindset. It's about your goals, as you've been talking about. It's about being true to yourself and
Mm-hmm.
aligning to what's right for you. And
Mm-hmm.
these are things that, like, if we don't do that, then like energy is just leaking out because we're frustrated, we're not fulfilled, and so on and so forth. So I just really commend you for your inspirational story and
Yeah,
the
thank
work that you're
you.
doing.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And PR is, I don't know how anyone does it these days without a PR agent, to be honest, because like you're
Yes.
kind of guessing if you don't have the data analytics, if you don't have the connections,
Mhm.
it's really intense. You have a podcast yourself. Tell us about your
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, so my podcast is called Perfect Pitch, PRFECT, pitch. And that really, the impetus for starting my podcast was, being in PR, working with CEOs, brilliant, brilliant people who, hey, just can you get me in Forbes? Can you get me an entrepreneur? Can you get me in Fast Company? And what they forget is that the people making the decisions, the journalists, the media, the ones who went to school or have this, a drive for writing and telling stories are human beings.
Mhm.
They're human beings who have their own stories, who have their own needs, who have their own things that they need to meet at work. And I think that so many people forget that they just say the
Mhm.
media,
Mhm.
and clients just look at just call the media. Well, they're humans,
Yeah.
right? And they like to be approached in certain ways. They need to be approached in certain ways. If you want to be in Fast Company, you very well need to prove that your business has made money, has made it through some hard times, is changing the world, and has already signed clients. Not like, well, I started my company yesterday, but it's a really good vision. Can it get in Fast Company? To me, it's uncovering the here's how, here's why, and here's the human that I talk to if your Fast Company or Forbes piece is going to get written. This is what they need, right? And so I have so many amazing journalist friends who have been friends of mine for years that, one of the reasons why I love what I do is because of the friendships. So it really highlights them and celebrates their hard work, keeping
Mm.
the world informed,
Yeah.
right? So that's my podcast.
That's beautiful. And it also helps people to know how to honor these different channels as well.
Mhm.
which can lead to higher success rates for people who are either in the industry or who are looking to leverage the industry for their own benefit, or hopefully the
Yep.
benefit of knowing about the business that they're in. It's awesome. So people should subscribe, listen. What would you like?
Yeah. Depending on where you listen to your podcasts, or if you like watching it on YouTube, we also put them up on NRPR Group's YouTube channel. But you know, where you can find them commonly, right? So Spotify, Apple, where else do they put it up? My team is so amazing. Like they do all the distribution. I know it's on Apple because that's where I listen to it myself afterwards,
Yeah, that's perfect. We'll put it in the
So
show notes for sure so you
yes.
guys can check it out. I love Perfect Pitch. I mean, of course it was a movie, right? But at the end of the day, it's a sales conversation and we're pitching ourselves a lot of the day. And that's part of us presenting and representing ourselves. And it's funny, every time I tell my story, it's a little bit different. I don't know about you, but it is. Depends on the audience
The audience.
and what's
Yes.
appropriate, what's relevant. Because I'm sure, like you, I have such a rich story, and there's so many facets of it. It's like, where's the
Yeah.
most value going to be seen? Are there any last words of wisdom you'd like to leave our listeners with today?
Yeah, no, I guess for women, it's we one thing that I think I learned too late was that um my intuition was right, and when I didn't listen to it was when I went down a wrong path. I was listening to other people. I was outside of my heart and I was in my head. I was trying to make sense of life. And I feel like there are so many things that, as a mother, as a professional, as a partner, um, that if I could just center in who I was authentically much sooner, there are probably a lot of mistakes I wouldn't have made. Obviously, every mistake leads you down the path that you're supposed to be. And I'm, you know, glad that the universe has, settled me here where I am. But at the same time, I probably could have gone through a little bit less turmoil, probably, as a younger mom, or even as a mom building my career. So trust your intuition, and when you're not sure, find alone time. It's not other people's opinions that you need to care about. It's, can you sleep at night knowing you're making the right choices that feel good to you? And sometimes it's that selfish decision that leads you down the path to actually getting your dreams, being your best you, showing your best you, especially if you're a parent. You want your kids to see you radiate as the best you. And sometimes that comes with some selfish decisions, but trust your gut and trust
Mm,
that intuition.
I love that. And it's so true. 100% of the time when I haven't followed my gut, it's been the wrong choice.
Yep.
Even when following your gut seems to be counterintuitive or something somebody may disapprove of. Yeah, that's probably the best advice anyone could ever give. I mean, that is really valuable. And it can be so hard because, as you said earlier, there's so many things that are conflicting as a mom, as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
being in a romantic relationship, and also just caring for yourself. So,
Yeah.
such solid advice. And it's like we're going too fast, and we can't actually find the time to tune in to what that right decision is.
Yep.
It's so critical. Nicole, thank you so much for your
No, thank
wisdom, your
you.
work, your mothering, the example that you are. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been really nice. I appreciate you, taking the time to listen and ask questions.
Be well.
Same to you.